You're listening to the Better Than Before podcast. I'm Tony Richards. This is where I normally do a business and leadership lesson. And I was looking through my notes here last night, and I came across some notes I had made from Ray Dalio's book, Principles. And I actually made these notes from the document. So Ray Dalio founded the investment firm Bridgewater. He had the best-selling business book last year called Principles. Well, before he put the book out, it used to just be a several-page, I think a 95-page document or something like that they'd post on the Bridgewater website. And it was basically the operating principles that he advised his employees to operate under in order to be successful. And so as thumbing through that document several years ago, I think this journal is from 2014 maybe. So on page 9 of that document, he had a section called Dealing with the Truth. And he basically had 9 or 10 principles here that he thought were important as far as dealing with the truth. The number one principle is failure is by and large due to not accepting and successfully dealing with the realities of life. And boy, isn't that true? As part of the assessment that we use as a CEO assessment in order to evaluate behaviors and motivations and acumen and skill sets and a bunch of different stuff, one of the things in that particular assessment that we look at is concentration and ability to recognize reality. Sometimes people's reality-based consciousness is based on the way they wish things were rather than the way things really are. Sometimes they catch about half of where they wish things were and the way things really are. And then sometimes, as we say down south, they don't miss a trick. They see things as far as they really are. They're very well developed in understanding the reality of the world around them. Ray is talking about failure here, and he attributes failure to not accepting and successfully dealing with the realities of life. That, I believe, is really, really true, because you can get stuck many, many times, especially in business, dreaming or fantasizing or believing in something that just isn't there or just isn't going to happen. Maybe you developed a new product for your business, and no one's ever going to really take off on it. No one's really going to. So if you don't understand that reality and you don't face up to it, you can waste a lot of time and immerse yourself in a lot of failure trying to make something happen that's never going to happen because you don't recognize the reality. Principle number 2 on this one is success is simply a matter of accepting and successfully dealing with all my realities. Let me read that again. Success is simply a matter of accepting and successfully dealing with all my realities. You can't really navigate a situation until you understand the reality of it. And he's saying that if you want to get on the pathway to success, you've got to figure out what is the reality of what's going on around me. And you've probably heard people say about folks sometimes say, well, he just lives in a fantasy world. Now, why would they say that? Because they're not successfully dealing with reality as other people see it, right? And perception is reality, but it's reality to you. It doesn't mean it's the actual reality. So you can't just go on your perception of the reality. You've got to try to dig down and really understand and be careful. The brain is full of cognitive biases that can work against you if you can't identify them or know how they work. And your mind can really trick you into thinking that you're on the right path. It's called confirmation bias, where you're so entrenched in this thought, this product, this process, that everything that happens seems to be telling you you're going in the right direction, while at the same time you're going in the absolute wrong direction. So you have to learn to really size up and question the things around you to make sure. And a lot of times that's why multiple perspectives can be really valuable to you rather than just going off your own perspective, because we all see things our way. whatever way that is. We're looking through our own lenses that have been created over the years that cause us to see things a certain way. And sometimes that works for us, sometimes it works against us. Principle number 3, finding out what is true, regardless of what that is, including mistakes and personal weaknesses, is good because I can then deal with these things so they don't stand in my way. Some people really struggle with identifying clearly the things that they're not good at. And those things continually become a stumbling block. And that can be for a lot of reasons. I've had people that I've coached over the years that have this particular stigma, which is, it's something that's blocking your sight, right? It's a blind spot. They've had that stigma for a lot of different reasons. Sometimes they believe a certain thing about a position, so they believe something else. In other words, they believe because they're boss, they're supposed to have all the answers. And maybe you're not good at analysis, and maybe you're not good at decisions. And so you think, well, since I'm the boss, I have to be good at decisions. So therefore, I need to make all the decisions because I'm the boss. And that kind of logic can get you in a lot of trouble. There can be a lot of other people around you on your team or advisors that can be better at some things than you are. And you'll never be able to leverage those things until you first realize the things that you're not good at and realize that as a reality. Number 4, there's nothing to fear from truth. Some truths can be scary, such as learning you have a deadly disease, but knowing it allows us to deal with it better. There was a story several years ago about the Intel CEO, Andy Grove, and he found out that he had cancer. And instead of just relying on, it wasn't that he ignored all of his physician's advice, but instead of relying on it solely, he did a lot of research on his own and really dug into the thing and was able to find some treatments and some remedies to work on that cancer that his doctor had not told him. So he didn't rely on just one viewpoint. He went out and tried to get other perspectives and other information. Turns out that he was able to survive a lot longer by doing that rather than just listening just solely on one perspective or one piece of advice. So once you recognize it and get out of denial and recognize things as the truth, it totally gives you leverage to be able to deal with it then. You can deal with it better. Number 5, when we seek the truth and are comfortable with the truth, we can then fully explore our thoughts and ideas and expose ourselves to feedback, which is essential to our learning. And I want to just throw my 2 cents in and say solicited feedback, not unsolicited feedback. And of course, my thoughts are unsolicited feedback when people want to give you advice that you didn't ask for. Most of the time, it's for their agenda or for their benefit, not for your agenda or for your benefit, right? They usually have some sort of agenda they're driving that you just bumped into or whatever, and they're trying to correct you and put you on the right path. And you didn't ask for that direction or that for that opinion or for that advice. So when soliciting feedback, it needs to be from somebody you trust, a trusted source. Because if you have a blind spot and you're flying blind, for example, you're probably pretty particular about who has the steering wheel, because they're doing the driving in that area that you can't see. You got to be careful who you accept feedback from, and it needs to be people you trust and people that you've solicited for their advice, not from unsolicited feedback. But when you're comfortable with the truth, that's the key word. When you're comfortable with the truth, you can then fully explore your thoughts and ideas and expose yourself to solicited feedback. Very, very important, but only because you're comfortable with it. You already know. Most people, I believe, they already know what their doctor is going to say 95% of the time before they go to the doctor visit. but for whatever reason, they're not taking the advice or taking action on the advice. Once you learn the truth and know the truth, there's no surprises. You just got to be comfortable dealing with the reality of it and take some action on it. Number 6, this is a powerful one. Being truthful is an extension of your freedom to be you. Once you're comfortable with who you are in truth, in reality, it's really freeing because you don't have to wear a mask any longer. You don't have to stretch your behaviors. You don't have to be something you're not. Once you're truthful with yourself, you can really be who you really are at the core. And that's what true freedom is really all about. Number 7, people who believe one thing on the inside and display another on the outside have heavy conflict to deal with. It's difficult for them to be happy and at their best. You're not even congruent with yourself. You're not even in alignment with yourself. And when you're out of alignment, that's very painful. That's why we go to a chiropractor, is because we're out of alignment, and he puts us back into alignment. And it feels so much better to be in alignment than it does to be misaligned. But when you are misaligned with yourself, I mean, that's a serious problem, because you can't be happy with yourself when you're misaligned, and you can't be at your best and doing your best work when you're misaligned. Your inside and your outside have to be congruent with each other. That way you can be happy and you can be at your best potential. Number 8, it works best if people can truthfully say what they really believe and have others reply and give feedback while they acutely listen. We struggle in our society today to listen to each other, and we prejudge and we judge people based on what they say. And we've gotten to the point that when we're around certain people, we won't even speak what we really think, because we know that they're going to judge us, or it's going to create conflict, or they're going to cut us off, or they're going to interrupt us, or they're going to debate us, or they're going to counterpoint us. Instead of actually actively and acutely listening to what the other person says, suspending your thoughts and suspending your judgment so that you can actually display a real act of kindness towards someone else, which is when you really listen to what they have to say, thoughtfully, carefully, and actively. Number 9, not dispelling wrong theories leads to gossip and talking behind people's backs. This pervasive information destroys a company from the inside out, and I totally agree. You've got to kill the rumor mill. You've got to kill the gossip. One of the best things you can do for your business is have a no gossip rule. And if you walk up behind employees who are gossiping, you need to break it up. If you hear somebody talking about something that's not true or is the latest rumor, you need to correct that behavior. Behavior that is not challenged will not change, and behavior that is rewarded will be repeated. So you have to challenge the behaviors that you don't want, and you have to reward the behaviors you do want. But God forbid you get into the trap where you don't challenge the behaviors you don't want, and you're actually rewarding the behaviors you don't want. You're going to get a lot more of it. If I give my dog Oreo a bone for doing the wrong thing, she's going to think doing the wrong thing's the right thing because she got a bone. So you got to be careful. Number 10, making judgments about people and trying and servicing them in your head without asking for their perspective is unethical and unproductive. It's unethical because every person has the right to face their accuser. You have to share your observations with people and ask them what they think about it to see if you're actually seeing it for what it really is, or if you're hallucinating. And believe me, a lot of people hallucinate. What they believe they are seeing in their head is not what they're actually seeing in reality. And if you don't check up on yourself, that can lead to some dangerous, dangerous stuff. I mean, this is some gold here from Ray Dalio from his document Principles, which is now all in a book that he put out last year by the very same title called Principles. You cannot get stuck in situations that are not real, that you don't perceive properly, you don't process properly. Once you know the truth, you can get some traction. Once you face the truth, you can get some traction. But as long as you're in denial, you're going to be stuck. We'll see you next time, and don't forget, everything gets better when you get better.
Thank you for listening to Better Than Before with Tony Richards, a business leaders podcast powered by Clear Vision Development Group. For more resources from Tony, visit clearvisiondevelopment.com. Join us next time for another episode of Better Than Before with Tony Richards.